Someone asked me the other day how I go about picking out cookbooks for my cookbook club, and I thought it was kind of an interesting idea of when you walk into a store or a library or even glance through online like Amazon or your favorite bookstore online. How do you take a look at all of the cookbooks out there and find the one that you want to bring into your kitchen? And again, that's kind of an interesting thought of, with so many out there, how do you know if you're going to like them? How do you know if they're the perfect cookbook for you? And do you really have to have that many cookbooks sitting on your shelf in your kitchen or, maybe in your den or your library? And it's something that I have been doing now for a couple of years, for 3 years. Actually, I'm on my third year here with the Cookbook Club. And yes, I love cookbooks. I have a ton of them. I think they are incredibly valuable, especially at this point in time when everything tends to be online. I do get some of my cookbooks physically on my Kindle app. I do enjoy, I travel enough, I use Airbnb enough that I like having great cookbooks, especially if they're easier. I have a couple of them that have both the physical copy and one on my Kindle because they're easy enough that they're great to work in Airbnb. They don't require a ton of ingredients. So, even if the Airbnb doesn't have a ton of stuff, I can still usually get by and, buy a few things, keep it on hand, and make delicious food when I'm on the road. But I think that's the beauty of having a physical cookbook. And the way that I usually find them, I have my favorite authors, my favorite cookbook authors, my favorite food bloggers that I follow, all these different resources that I follow. And when people talk about cookbooks, I usually listen because if I like somebody, I like the way that they process their food, the way that they create their own recipes, or the way that they talk about food. Chances are I'm going to enjoy their cookbook or their cookbook recommendations as well. So that's usually where I start. If someone makes a recommendation, I like to jump on it and see if I agree with that. See if that's something that I want to bring into my own collection. Usually, what I try and do is I like to see if I can get a copy of it before I actually make the investment. What I do is I love my local library. I happen to be in an area that we have a ton of vegan and vegetarian and plant-based options. That's just something that's standard up here in the Pacific Northwest. So I usually find most of the cookbooks that I find, reading and stuff online. I request them, I take a look at them, I read them. I see if I like the introduction, if I like, some of the comments that are in there. And then I start cooking. I pick out a recipe or find one that, instantly jives with what I want to create with where I'm currently at. And I usually can tell in one recipe if this is going to be a cookbook that I'm going to want to keep on my shelf. And here we are in August, and this month's cookbook is definitely one that fits all of those bills and more. Because I think what I really try and do is find cookbooks, find recipes that can resonate with me throughout the year. And trust me, in August, I am definitely not cooking the same things that I cook in December. And I think that's why you need multiple cookbooks, because who I am today is not who I will be, 2 weeks from now or 2 months from now. Who I am this season is not who I will be next season, right? We all kind of go through a different process based on what the weather is like outside and what we're doing and what we're looking for. So for me, having a vast array of cookbooks is something that I personally strive for, because I know each of those cookbooks on my shelf have specific types of recipes. I know the authors because I've cooked with their cookbooks. I maybe follow them online, and I understand how they put food together, so I can easily grab one off, find a recipe maybe that I've cooked before, or if I'm feeling experimental, to go ahead and try something new. But this month's cookbook is called Health Nut. And I knew almost from the moment that I picked it up that this was going to be one that I wanted. Share with you a couple things. I love the way that she has put her book together. I love the way that she has put photographs throughout. Just everything is very simple. I love her story. Just I resonated with her right away. But in her section called About This Book, she writes, "I am not a nutritionist. I am not a wellness influencer. I am just a classically French-trained chef who has a nostalgia for the sticky-shelved health food stores that are becoming increasingly hard to find. I am someone who worked with Martha Stewart for a long time, loves to garden, is obsessed with produce, and has a huge collection of cookbooks from the 70s. In this book, you will find a lot of plant-forward meals and not a lot of refined sugar. But you will also find a little butter, some all-purpose flour, an almost unreasonable number of dates, and lots of nuts, olive oil, coconut oil, and other good fats. Is it truly health food? Who's to say? But it is real food. This is a collection of the food that I feel good eating, but don't feel like I'm depriving myself of anything. It's food I like to feed the people around my table. It also looks beautiful and tastes great. Now, isn't that what we all want? I think that we forget that in this world anymore. We want convenience. We want things that are fast. We want things that we can pick up and just, bring to the table quickly in our ever increasingly busy lives. We want something that, again, is that we can grab on the go. All that without truly thinking about, where it comes from, how it looks, how it nourishes us, what it does for our bodies. And I think that's the true loss of where we are at this particular point in time, why cookbooks are so important, and why the physical act of getting back in the kitchen is so important. Because we've lost a lot of that. We've lost the ability to understand what good food truly is. I've discovered that here this last month, just watching someone on YouTube, someone in their 20s who, is moving around, but just their process for eating. It's constantly going through the drive-through, grabbing things at convenience stores, and just kind of approaching every meal that way. And I started noticing this. I loved his message. I loved everything about what he's doing online. But the approach to food is definitely not by his alone. I'm seeing this throughout. So many people have taken on that style or that lifestyle, that way of eating, of, doing things quick, opening up a package, running through drive-through, going to a convenience store, grabbing something without truly understanding where it's coming from, or again, how it's nourishing your body. So that to me is why cooking is so important. And so she says it so well based on just it is about good eating, not depriving yourself of that taste. A lot of people think, vegetables and, whole grains, things that are just single, right? Just if you pick up a carrot or you pick up rice, something with not a lot of ingredients in there, how can that be good? It's all about bringing it together to make it taste good and ultimately, look good, be appealing when you plate it, when you put it in front of someone, and even having fun in the process of putting it together. So I want to share with you a couple of things. Again, what I do when I pick up a cookbook is I take a look at it, and I love to look at the recipes and see if it is something that resonates with me. And at this particular point in time, again, right in the middle of summer, tomatoes are in abundance. We probably overplanted tomatoes this year out in our garden. I have so many tomatoes coming in. So when I saw her recipe right here on tomato and melon gazpacho. Now I love gazpacho, absolutely love it. And I've have a lot of gazpacho recipes. I've played around with a lot of them. When we were in Spain about 10 years ago, we had a melon gazpacho that was just, I've talked about it before. It's just something that we have this memory of, that it was just so good, so incredible. And I have tried to recreate that melon gazpacho. Again, it's been 10 years. It's hard to remember exactly what it tastes like, but I just remember it being so yummy, so incredible. So I have tried to recreate that from time to time. But for me, gazpacho has always been more traditional, right? Tomatoes and maybe add cucumber, maybe some jalapenos to give a little bit of spice, but very traditional with using tomatoes. So the two have always been two separate gazpachos to me. And when I saw her recipe of tomato and melon gazpacho, that intrigued me instantly. And what she does is she actually uses, again, a lot of tomatoes, but she always puts in a watermelon along with it. And that was something that I was like, huh? Watermelon with my tomato gazpacho? didn't quite make sense, and at the same time, it sounded absolutely amazing. So that was the first thing I tried the minute I picked up this book. Got all the ingredients, went ahead and tried it, and lo and behold, it's probably the best gazpacho I have had yet. There's something about the way that watermelon comes into play with the tomatoes, and it just created a very wonderful taste, just a gorgeous soup that my entire family loved. We just, served it with a little side salad, and it was a perfect meal on a 90-degree day. So again, right there, first recipe, I knew this book was a keeper. And again, the thing that I like about what she had for right now here in August, when it's the heart of the garden season, right, when everything is just kind of pouring in, she has a lot of different things for the things that are physically growing in my garden. Like zucchini and corn fritters. Again, this was another one. Had to try instantly because so much zucchini is coming from my garden right now. Again, just very few ingredients. Zucchini, corn, onions, a lemon, just very simple ingredients that if you aren't growing in your own garden, you can easily pick up in a farmer's market and cook it from there. And then she also had another one. Look at this one. Zucchini and pistachio pesto pizza. Sounds absolutely incredible. Pistachio is like one of my all-time favorite flavors. I love pistachios. Pistachio ice cream is my all-time favorite. So putting zucchini and pistachio as a pesto with pesto on a pizza, again, sounds very intriguing and something that is definitely on my list to try from this book. So if you're looking for something to use all of those garden or farmers markets products that you are currently have littered your counter, right? Your counter in your pantry and your refrigerator, this might be the book that you go ahead and try too. Health Nut by Jess Damick. I absolutely have fallen in love with it. I think it's going to be a great addition to my cookbook collection, and definitely a great addition to my kitchen this August while I'm going through all of the foods that are coming in from my garden and from my farmers markets visits. So pick up Health Nut today. I'd love to hear from you if you try it, what you think, and if you have any other recommendations for cookbooks that I should try, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you next month.